Welcome back to Swine Insights Unleashed, Episode 3, Market Momentum. I'm Vic Faust. Insights from the 2024 Hog Building Report Facility Trends. We all know construction plays a pivotal role in the hog industry. Plus, it's also apparent that market fluctuations impact construction trends in the current landscape. And we're joined now by Chris Grant. He is the president of the IHT Group based out of Toronto. Chris, thanks for taking time to join us today. I know about your global presence. I truly do, because I know a little bit about the traveling that you've been doing and your itinerary. Congrats on all the success so far. You guys have a new building, a new facility. How has that transition been? Is it changing the way that you're helping what you do in the swine industry?
Yeah. Hey, nice meeting you, Vic. The new building is great. It's taken a lot of time to get in there, a lot of challenges, obviously, new construction. But the great part is it's doubled our production capabilities and capacities and allowing us to look at new product developments and markets that we're working on in the swine industry.
Well, if anybody knows anything about the IHT Group, they know that your number one priority is taking care of animals, reducing stress for not only the animals, but for staff. Talk about what specifically you're doing to make that happen.
Yeah, so our number one product is obviously on the heat mat side. We do it a little differently than everybody else out there. One is product quality warranties that we offer our customers, and we stand behind everything we do. Our sales and technical staff are different than other companies. They were all actually management and production staff before in clients. So they sit down with clients, work through what their barn specific applications are, and are there when it's all installed and set up, and make sure a client is perfectly happy before we walk away. So it's a full circle approach, right from the first time we meet them right to the end, and starting up their systems.
Are the products fully integrated? And if so, how so?
Yeah, so it's fully integrated into anybody's control system as well. So we can use any controller out there for the heat side on those facilities. So everybody has different controllers and in their barns, and we can fully integrate into anybody else's system.
It just seems like it's a fantastic situation that you've got going on right now. How is it that you feel that your company is really helping and making those strides, maybe even better than you have before?
Yeah, the biggest thing is the energy consumption. We're seeing clients come back to us and say, man, you've taken over 60% of our electricity off our farrowing rooms. We can't believe it. We're seeing less breakers blowing. We're seeing less fuses blowing, just the capacity that other things they can do in those barns. There's limited power going to a lot of these sites. So taking that off summer and winter it's a huge thing for the producer, and cutting their costs in these markets is amazing.
Are you finding that your consumers are purchasing all of your products together, or one individual when it comes to a heating aspect or a cooling aspect?
So on the heating side, that's our big push on that side. We see clients going into that, but then with all the research we're doing with Purdue and all the new products we're working on the cooling side, that's brand new. So we're going to be putting that out at World Pork. We're going to have new samples for people to look at, and we're doing a bunch of research, whether it's boar studs, whether it's sow barns. So we're looking at different types of livestock and taking heat stress away from them.
Real quick, can you update us on that work with Purdue as you just talked about? Because I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah. So we just at the American ASAS meetings, there was a lot of poster work done, and a lot of research was put out there on the boar stud trials we're running. And we continue to run the actual sow trials, and we're just starting a new trial in Mexico next week. And we're going to be sharing a lot of that data out there. What we're seeing is a considerable amount of heat stress taking off the animal, and the actual wean weights are going up in the farrowing rooms. We're seeing, just the heat stress, the stress on the sow, the stress on boars is considerably less.
Well, Chris, it's amazing what the company is doing right now with all of your technological advances. We appreciate you taking time with us today. By the way, you have one of the best backdrops I've seen. If you look really close, you can see that beautiful lake behind you. So outstanding job.
Hey,
We
thanks.
love it. Chris,
And
once
thanks.
again, Chris Grant, the president with the IHT Group. Chris, we'll catch up with you next time and continued success to your company.
Thank you very much.
Welcome back to the show. I'm Vic Faust. This building report from Fritz Richards, the sales director at Hog Slat, is something to see. Now, we see customer interest primarily focused in two areas: breeding gestation and farrowing design. Now, most of the remodels and updates in the B&G buildings are targeted to meet higher welfare standards. Hog Slat is heavily involved in building and remodeling open pen gestation barns, having done around 750,000 sow spaces over the past 10 years. One thing is certain: remodeling sow barns is not a one-size-fits-all program. The first and most important factor we look at is the existing style of the floor. Partial slatted versus total slatted. The floor layout makes a huge difference in how we design a penning conversion. The next factor we consider is whether the farm can add new structures. Meeting Prop 12 specs typically means the operation will lose between 15 and 30% of sow capacity because of increased space requirements. We evaluate the best layout for the customer to give them the greatest opportunity to be profitable in the long term. Litter size continues to increase, and larger farrowing space is required to maximize the farm's productivity. Now, Hog Slat has developed innovative designs to allow producers to do this without building new facilities while maintaining the same number of farrowing crates. Whether it's new construction or remodeling, the center of our focus has become designing facilities that are easily adapted to changing conditions. We can reconfigure farrowing space to accommodate any future welfare requirements that might come into law or possible future premiums offered by packers for alternative welfare practices. Our goal is to minimize the cost of those future conversions. Giving customers the most value for their money is the driving force behind everything we do at Hog Slat. You can see that in our steel equipment, where we incorporate different types and sizes of material to increase life expectancy without ever increasing cost. We continuously integrate new technologies in our feed delivery and ventilation systems to improve energy savings and maintenance cost. With all the new product introductions coming in 2024, it promises to be an exciting year for Hog Slat and our customers.
Welcome back to Swine Insights Unleashed. Market momentum, insights from the 2024 Hog Building Report, and facility trends. We have Sean McGinn, COO of Carthage. Welcome, Sean.
Thank you.
So can you elaborate on the driving factors behind the decision to build a new finishing sow barn building in Indiana? Are there specific market demands or industry trends that influence this strategic investment?
Yeah, that's a really good question, especially, and where we're at with the industry as of the last 2 years. So it's been a difficult industry, as you know. And to build a new sow farm is one that we didn't take lightly. It was really the perfect opportunity for us in that we have an existing customer that had a need for some gilts, and we had a site location as well as an ownership group that was willing to put forth that effort and money to allow us to do that. We have a couple of other farms with them, and I think it speaks highly to how involved we are, as well as how good we are in the multiplication world. So the opportunity came to us, and it was definitely one that we looked at, and we're able to definitely pull off with construction happening for the most of 2023 and now into 2024.
Now, what about the facility design with the construction of a finishing building sow farm for a 5,600 head sow farm multiplier? What considerations went into the design and layout of the facility, and how does the design align with industry standards and best practices?
Yeah, good question. So Being a 5,600 head sow farm, we know what it's going to be technology driven, both today and in the future, and technology is never going to slow down. So you have to build it for both today and in the future for technology. We also build it as open pen gestation. The biggest reason being is that's not going to go away. A lot of contracts require that today, so it's an open pen gestation farm. We started designing this farm a long time ago, but we definitely looked at the labor piece and some of the things that are a constraint with labor. So for an example, 5,600 head sows, our farrow target's 270 per week. We set up farrowing rooms that are 90 crate rooms. So we're going to wean 3 times a week, and each time we wean, it's a full room at a time so that we're not taking any wasted space or adding any downtime to the facility. Other considerations that we made when we were building it is looking at robotic power washing in the farrowing house. So in order to allow robotic power washing, alleyways have to be a certain width. So we constructed it in that manner. Also, you have to have so much clearance as you come into the farrowing house to be able to turn those big robots around. So we gave the added clearances there. So that's just a few of the things that we did when we designed the farm. Additional items would include a wean sow room. So as we wean sows, they stay in our farrowing house or under our farrowing roof. That allows less animal movement and sows to eat lactation feed while they're in that building as well. This is being a multiplier. We're selling gilts and barrows separately. So we have 2 different holding rooms for the supply of both of those lines, if you will. It's a removed office from the facility. So that enables the office to stay a little bit cleaner and not get the barn air in there, if you will. And also looking at today's labor, it's separate shower entry rooms. So individual rooms for a shower for both males and females, as well as an individual space. The laundry's kept different by gender. So anything that we can do to change the way that people feel as they shower into a sow farm these days.
Well, lots of great innovative features. Let's wrap up on ventilation strategy, Sean. So positive ventilation is crucial for maintaining optimal conditions within swine facilities. How does the new finishing building sow farm incorporate positive ventilation systems, and what benefits does the approach offer in terms of herd health and performance?
Yeah. So it's positive ventilated farm, and it's also a filtered farm. So a filter bank on each end of each of the buildings there. We would have a GDU, 2 gestation barns, and a farrowing barn, all filtered with positive ventilation. And I think the reason positive ventilation works so well in today's world is you're always pushing air out of your farm. So you think about the more critical aspects of when air can enter the farm, when you're cooling animals, or mortality removal that happens every day. There's purge fans that are also in those locations to ensure that the air does exit. But the static pressure that's within each of those barns and hallways always is allowing for air to push out. So that helps protect the farm when you're opening up the outside doors when air cannot come through those filter banks. So mortality removal, supply entry, even during the pumping season, when you're having to take pit covers off to pump, that's always a positive ventilation. It is more difficult to run. It takes a little bit more technology, and it takes somebody that's capable of running that as well. So the other added benefit is we do run a system that allows us to have remote access so that we're constantly checking on how well each and every one of those units are running.
Well, Sean McGinn, CEO of Carthage, thanks for joining us today.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Being as it is still very early in the build season this year, we have yet to see any new changes implemented into 2024 construction. However, designs that have been implemented over the past few building seasons are gaining more and more traction. Examples of that would include solid sidewall construction, open pen gestation, and positive pressure updates. Advancements in technology continue to change the scope and ability of hog buildings. Better automation as far as sow feeding utilizing ESF stations help to train and maintain an efficient use of feed specifically with sows. Smart controllers have also gained popularity over the last few years, and 2024 shows no signs of that decreasing. Smart controllers offer a remote control capability to the operation of your hog barn. Wireless alarm systems have also grabbed a large portion of the market, making alerts and emergencies a lot easier to navigate through. A noticeable shift in the industry revolves around Proposition 12. It regulates the space requirements for animals in confinements. In doing so, open gestation has become a major push from many integrators. These space requirements aim to improve animal welfare by providing pigs with more room to move and engage in natural behaviors. Additionally, the legislation aims to address environmental concerns associated with the concentrated animal feeding operations, CAFOs, by potentially reducing the environmental impact of these facilities. Overall, Prop 12 represents a significant shift in regulatory policies towards more stringent standards for hog building practices, with a dual focus on improving both the animal welfare and the environmental sustainability. As the implementation of this legislation progresses, its impact on the pork industry in California and beyond will continue to be closely monitored. A couple of big strategies being employed are alternative energy sources and efficient waste management. Alternative energy sources lessen the carbon footprint that a building has, such as wind power and solar power. Waste management efficiencies come from utilizing the manure in the containment pit beneath a building. Spreading manure over a field as a fertilizer lessens the impact of using ammonia-based products on a field. To make buildings more efficient for the animals, better ventilation, feed, and water controls are being used. Smarter controllers provide more up-to-date information to adjust ventilation accordingly and utilize less energy. Feed and water monitoring are being used more and more to make sure feed efficiencies are met and little to no feed is wasted. Also, making sure the animals have adequate hydration makes for a healthier, more efficient pig growth.
And now we're joined by Scott Unke. He is a account manager with Ag Property Solutions. Thanks for taking some time to join us today on SwineWeb TV, Scott. Let's jump right into this. What a fascinating and certainly big industry when it comes to the prefabricated steel swine barns that you guys have put together in the United States.
Well, thanks, Vic. You know, the inspiration for this came from the customer. Pipestone had been building them in China and Mexico. We'd been exposed to it. We had the skill sets, so we were excited, and we were chosen to do the first ones in South Dakota.
Can you talk specifically about the benefits and how people are able to utilize this to get the full advantage of it?
Well, you could go on for a long time on that, but you know, it's steel. It's not wood. And when you look at these, there's so many things that come to mind. There's going to be there's nothing porous in the whole. The panels are so tight, they're so washable, they're so smooth. Everything from ventilation to biosecurity, we're hearing positive things from the engineers and the veterinarians.
How did PRI play into all of this?
Well, I'm glad you said PIR because the names are, it's like reading a chemistry book.
It is.
But, you know, we're hearing, I'm not going to sort out whether it's non-flammable or fire retardant, all those. I'll let somebody else sort that out. But it doesn't heat up and have any chemical change till 400 degrees. The insurance companies are loving this. It doesn't burn. So we think that's a huge, fascinating thing. And we can hit any R value just like we can in a wood structure. So I guess why not keep trying to improve?
How about sharing some insights into the construction process? That would be very helpful.
Couple things that were surprises to us. You know, when you're building out in the middle of South Dakota and you've got trusses that are oversized coming down the road, 100 trucks at a time, it's a real challenge. These buildings came, every piece, in an enclosed trailer and unloaded snow and ice free in the middle of the winter. We hadn't even thought of that as a big benefit, but it is. The other thing we found out is that we can put up and enclose per square foot almost twice as fast as we can a wood structure. Our crews loved it. And after their experience, they're really looking forward to doing the next one.
Well, it's got to be good to hear that with all the positive that's coming into that. What about when you look forward to the future? What do you foresee the impact being?
Well, I mean, right now we know that the industry is not looking for more sows. They're looking for less sows.
Yeah.
So we think we'll have some time to evaluate this. And that's probably good. But we think that the buildings will last a lot longer. Obviously, I'm going to be long gone when somebody can conclusively say that. But everybody that we're talking to, again, the third parties are pointing towards, and if you look, there's only 1 or 2% of the sow farms in this country right now are more than 30 or 40 years old. Mm-hmm. And we think these are going to far exceed that. And the lenders talk to us about improved ROIs. We'll find out about the biosecurity advantages. There's safety advantages. The employees servicing these filters can walk the attics without stepping from truss to truss or building catwalks. I mean, I could go on, but you know, again, as long as we don't think we've got all the answers, why not keep getting better? And we think that the Sea Lines package that we got brought to us by AP we're very impressed. And Ag Property Solutions is going to push this. This is what we want to build on all the bigger farms going forward.
Well said. Scott Unke, thank you so much for your time and continued success, sir.
You're welcome.
Welcome back to Swine Insights Unleashed. Market momentum, insights from the 2024 Hog Building Report and Facility Trends. Brent Hershey, welcome back to the program.
Good to be here, Jim.
Exciting news. You have a new construction complete in compliance with Prop 12. We have some photos to share from your venture. As we share what's going on with your new building, I want you to comment on the photos and explain to our audience the process, the procedure, and why you expanded.
Okay, so this farm was a 2000 sow farm, and we decided we wanted to change it to Prop 12 compliance. So a couple things happened. We had already went to large pens in the original barn post-breeding, but now we had to get rid of all those gestation breeding crates. So with that, that sucks up a lot of space. We're using a system called sow condos, 45 square feet, 48 square feet. A condo is what we end up with. So we every 3 gestation or 4 gestation stalls becomes a sow condo. So we needed about 35% more facility square footage, 38%. So what happened here, this is a 2 barn complex. To the left there is the original gestation barn that housed all the gestation for 2,000 sows. We built this barn to the right, connected it with that corridor so that we could have that additional square footage we needed to spread those sows out to the 24 square feet and also to implement our sow condo breeding. This new barn here is an 8-foot deep cement pit underneath it, a deep pit. It has 4-foot cement sidewalls entirely around it. So the sows are against that cement sidewall. It's insulated from there on up. You can see the corridor that connected. The ventilation system, it's a Tunnel Plus ventilation system design. We're utilizing the Scove product for all direct drive fans for ventilating the barn. If you keep going here, Jim, the next picture here, right there, we are not using curtains. We're moving away from them to the Scove inlet door. It's an insulated door. The top actuates open first, the bottom second. We really like this product. Again, it's a SCO product, and so this barn has these doors on it. It saves us doing closing up in the wintertime and things like that. Much tighter sealer and less maintenance. So there's the front. Here's the inside. If you look in the top of the ceiling, you see the black inlets. That is all ceiling inlets. The first 30% of the ventilation comes in through the attic before we transition to the tunnel. Another thing we're doing in here is we're using Tunnel Plus system. So that incorporates using those blue fans that you see there. And they are about every 60 feet down through the barn, and they blow down on the animals, and we have water systems on them. And we found this to be extremely effective. We like it better than evaporative cool cells. It's lower maintenance, simpler to operate. It's a little bit more cost up front, but the effective cooling of it and the water, we have no degradation of environment in a 400-foot long building here from end to end, which just as cool middle 100 feet before the fans as it is to the air inlets with this system. So we have this in 2 gestation barns already. We put it in 5 years ago, and now in this new farm we added it and really like it. Here's a center alleyway that we access the barn, and so basically it's a center alleyway end to end, and we've got pens on either side and feed, staunch and feeding around it. There's a typical pen. Something I want to point out here. The feed trough, we used a flat stainless steel liner so that space counts in the square footage. We're just dropping feed on a flat liner. It's about 20 inches deep. Second thing I want to point out here is that we used a new lighting system in this barn. We're using the Hato lighting system, H-A-T-O. It's a DC system. It's automatic dimming, long day lighting, and it's pretty nice system. We don't need to run all the wires in conduit. In Pennsylvania, it's a seal tight wire system, and then the lightings are sealed tight, and that lighting system comes with an 8-year warranty. So we invested more in lighting and more lighting. We're running a higher lighting intensity. We're actually updating some of the old gestation with a whole new lighting system in it. This Hato system we're putting in right now to beef up that lighting. So just some nice things that we're doing there. You can see the sows are against concrete up 4 feet, and then from there on up is just an aluminum covered wall. Right there to the left in that picture, you see a fan poking in. That's one of those fans that we use every 60 feet. We put a water system on there. We spray water in the animals. We're basically sweating for the animal, and it keeps the air down on the animal. And we're able to very effective cooling on these sows with that system. We've been through heat waves, 102, 103 degrees, 3-4 days straight, and we're not seeing production drops through that. We're seeing, in fact, it's been pretty amazing how successful that cooling system's been.
So success all around. Brent, thanks for taking the time to share us the journey and the photos.
Okay.
Joining us now is Chris Elvidge. He is the engineering and tech service manager for Pig Tech, a global company which is now managing farms in every which way you can possibly imagine, specifically here when it comes to ventilation. Chris, we appreciate you jumping in on the show for the first time. We thought it'd be really cool to do some rapid fire when it comes to the knowledge that you have. Are you ready to rock and roll with this?
Yeah, let's go.
All right. First of all, how do ventilation strategies differ in various housing systems when you got conventional barns versus the free range systems?
Well, that's an interesting conversation, really. I mean, it's the free range barns they're kind of new to the States. They started in Europe, right? So we had a lot of free range over in Europe, and a lot of that came to the United States. But the big difference you saw with the European farms were that they were a lot smaller. So your typical sow farms were 500 sows. That actually was a pretty big farm for like Germany area. And then if you go to the Eastern Bloc, the old the Russian side, that area you saw some bigger, 1,000 head sow farms. But they all had to convert then to free range. And basically what that means is, you had a barn before that had a bunch of stalls and you had animals packed through, just all lined in the building. And there wasn't a lot of free air, at that 4 foot, 3 foot level. There wasn't a lot of free space. A lot of animals took up that space. And what happened is when we went to a free range kind of setup, or ESF or electronic sow feeding or some kind of system where animals are free to move around, what you found that a lot of animals obviously found spots in barns, and they would kind of huddle together, and they would lay together, and they would end up laying. So what would happen is now all of a sudden you didn't have a lot of these crates taking up airspace. Okay. And then you had a lot of animals laying down or just free ranging around. So now you've got a lot of this air that's just like this. You got pretty much a huge tunnel barn. I mean, we say the word tunnel barn, but before, 4 feet above, it was all crates, and then it was tunnel at your head.
Oh, it makes sense.
And so that was kind of the problem we kind of ran into. And we saw a lot of this in South America, because what we do is we manufacture, we make fans and ventilation products and that kind of stuff. So, managing a barn was one thing, with the animals, but when it came to ventilation, the settings you had before really weren't working, especially in hotter climates. Because what we saw is that you started having more wind chill effect on pigs, on these sows, because your air speeds that you were running before, you had to run a higher air speed because you had a lot of obstructions in the building, or you had a lot of those heat eddies. So if you were able to look at it in a barn, a conventional barn, over top of every sow, you'd have like a little heat tornado, kind of heat rising, and all this turbulence of air trying to get through in a tunnel building. So you really had to crank that airspeed up to get the air moving in one direction. And when you had these free range buildings, now you had all this stuff spread out and pocket set areas. Now you had free lanes of air just rushing through the building. And so what we found that guys had to like learn how to turn down their ventilation rates. And a lot of that would have been based off of, like at nighttime, temperature might have not changed much in the building, or in certain areas where your temperature sensors were, and humidity might have went up. And so you've kept the same airspeed, humidity's gone up. Now you're chilling these pigs, and they're all huddling together because they can free range with each other, and they're going to pile on top of each other. You're going to see abortions and things like that. So it's kind of been a real learning experience, and I think we're still trying to figure that out today. A lot of that goes back towards some of the new technologies that would come up with varying fans and this variable technology, and being able to, instead of turning on one fan and having 30,000 CFM blast at once, we can slowly ramp these big fans up and slowly ramp them down. So that's just kind of the big difference between conventional barns and free range.
Well, you're clearly an expert. That's a great response. As we continue the rapid fire, Chris, what about innovative technologies or advancements in swine ventilation that producers should know about right now in 2024?
The biggest ones, I think, it goes part and part. You have these new fan technologies. So some of the newer fan technologies they're using permanent magnet type motors, and what that means is these motors actually have magnets on board now. And what that allows us to do is it allows us to truly vary the speed without and being efficient. So if you think about you're at home, you've got this technology has been around for years. Your furnaces, you've got the high efficiency furnace where your blowers run slower, faster, depending on demand. Well, we have that technology now into the swine industry and the chicken industry as well. It's those price points for that technology have finally came down to where we can afford to put them in pig barns and things like that and be cost effective. So you should be aware that those kind of technologies that we can now vary ventilation. Like I mentioned before, we're so used to staging ventilation by saying this fan comes on, this fan comes on. Now we can say this fan's on, this fan's going to ramp all the way up, and then this fan's going to turn off, or it's going to turn on another fan. The variable fan is going to turn all the way down and then start varying the ventilation. So you get a nice smooth curve. And then the other part of what you should be aware of is the control systems. Good fans and all these new great products aren't any good unless you have a controller that can control them and understand that feedback loop and give the proper feedback to the fans that the room's, telling the controller to work at.
That's fascinating.
Those are the big ones, I think.
Can you share any insights into the energy efficient considerations, I guess, when implementing swine ventilation?
I think some of the big ones that we've jumped on years ago when we first started, or at least one of my first projects was we worked at Iowa State, and we did a kind of a project with Brett Ramirez there. Actually, still works. He's still there at the school. But one of the things that I always saw was pit ventilation. So pit ventilation has been one of these things that not everybody, you can either like it, you don't like it, you think it works, it doesn't work. Regardless, though, it's like the old saying, like, I don't know if you grew up on a farm or anywhere, but if you left the light on, if you drove by the farm and the lights were still on and someone left the barn lights on, your dad or somebody was yelling at you because obviously that's burning electricity. Now the LEDs, it's not so bad, but the old incandescent light bulbs, that's 100-watt light bulb, that's almost an amp at 120, that's an amp a bulb almost. So that's a lot of money. So the idea is that those things were on all the time, and that's what your pit fans are doing. People don't realize that those pit fans are running, they're running all the time. That fan, you might only have, it might be 24 inches, but you've got 4 to 6 of them to 8 of them sometimes on your building, and they run all the time, all year round. And in the wintertime, you use them and then they'll start varying them down. And the old varying techniques actually were used they use triacs. And triacs aren't the best. What they do is they basically, in a nutshell, take the voltage away from the motor. So from, say it's 240 volts, to slow the motor down, you go slower, you go lower voltage. But that voltage is turned into heat and it's dissipated. So you still waste it. You're not saving any energy. Okay, so there's newer technologies like in these permanent magnet motor fans or these truly variable fans to where they actually truly do reduce. When they slow down, they do save you money. So that's the things, when you kind of look about is, sometimes having variable fans on the big fans, that probably isn't, we try to sell those fans, of course, but that isn't where your bang for the buck is. Your bang for the buck is those fans that are running 24/7. And then 9 times out of 10, those are your most important fans, your minimum ventilation fans, and then keeping that accuracy. So
finally, Chris, I wanted to ask you what role or how does ventilation play a role, proper ventilation play a role in disease prevention?
Well, on the disease side of things, I'm no veterinarian, but what we do is we work and design. We design air systems. We design fans to put in the buildings, positive pressure, negative pressure. And one of the things that we've really seen take off, here in the States, we've seen some positive pressure activities, but we also, we do a lot in Vietnam. We have a location in Vietnam, and we've been working in the Vietnamese market now for probably 5 years now. And I've been quoting quite a few facilities over there. And one thing we've learned over there is that, there's simple tactics of, before we thought filters and all this other stuff were the things to do, but there's sometimes little things like, and I'm going to share this example, is that we have companies in Vietnam that we do positive pressure ventilation with, and they don't filter the barn. And you think that's crazy, right? Like, why would you not filter it? But what they're doing is, things like African swine fever, they were coming in on flies. So a fly would land from the feed mill or somewhere, it'd come with a feed truck, or it'd come from another farm. Mm-hmm. That fly would fly into the barn, land on a pig, and then you've got ASF transmitted or flies. And so what they would do is the idea that we worked with quite a few companies over there is you turn the fans around. I mean, simply you're blowing air in the building and you have positive pressure. And the whole reason for positive pressure is you basically on your intakes, you put a screen. And so that way, if the air is always blowing out, then technically, right, you're not going to get any disease in the building. But in their case, it was just keep flies out, because the flies were the disease and the birds as well. So it was a neat little simple thing, but on a more realistic thing, yes. I mean, ventilation plays a huge role in disease prevention. I mean, the biggest thing for disease is healthy pigs, right? I mean, healthy pigs are going to be, healthy humans, healthy pigs fight off disease just like anything else. There's so many things when it comes to disease coming into a building, but ventilation is always one of those things that if you do have a little bit of disease or you have a little bit of sickness or anything, and you have poor ventilation, you're bound to determine it's a net zero. It's bad. It just ain't gonna work.
Chris, we appreciate your time. Chris Elvidge with Pig Tech, and continued success to your company and all the good you're doing when it comes to the advances, when it comes to ventilation in the swine industry.
Cool. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Welcome back to Swine Insights Unleashed. Market momentum, insights from the 2024 Hog Building Report, and facility trends. The producer segment with Phil Horde, president of Horde Farms. Welcome, Phil.
Thanks.
So with the recent expansion to Pipestone, Minnesota, how do you plan to integrate state-of-the-art equipment and modern construction techniques to optimize production efficiency and animal welfare at Horde Farms West?
Yeah, several of our farms there were already equipped with technologies like electronic sow feeding and then modern controllers. But we are exploring other various upgrades and enhancements for those assets, and our plans would include things such as adding some additional contemporary or new nursery spaces, converting some finisher buildings to wean to finish, by enclosing sidewalls, installing tunnel ventilation, and we also have some flooring upgrades going on. So there's a lot of renovation type things we're doing there at the West Farms.
What about any specific advancements or innovations in facility construction or equipment that you're implementing at Horde Farms to address evolving industry standards?
Yeah, I wouldn't say there's much in terms of evolving industry standards or meeting any new regulatory requirements at those farms. Those were largely already met for what we need out there. However, we're looking into ways to continue to improve biosecurity some. So we've added some of the UV box type, devices for biosecurity of supply entry into the farm. We're also looking at improving our air filtration by replacing our filters and shoring up some of the building design there to help improve the air biosecurity, since our farms are filtered there.
So you've got a lot of experience in Ohio and now Minnesota. Is there any key lessons that you've learned regarding the design and construction of swine facilities, and how are you applying these insights to enhance the infrastructure at Horde Farms West?
Yeah, something noteworthy that, may surprise some of the listeners here is that in Ohio, we are among the very few, if not the only producers here that implement the HEPA air filtration in sow farms here in Ohio. We started this filtration here several years ago in Ohio in a few farms prior to the acquisition, but we're actually now planning to implement air filtration into more farms in Ohio, which was inspired by, the positive experiences of filtration from Minnesota. So basically leveraging some information that we're actually learning from our team there in Minnesota, who do a good job with that, and bringing it back to Ohio, and similarly share lessons that we obviously have learned here in Ohio with our team there on production. So I would say there's definitely learnings from both ends that are both, areas that we've been able to happen.
So as you continue to grow and innovate, Phil, what role do you see technology playing in the future of swine facility construction and management, and how are you staying ahead of the curve?
It's kind of hard to stay ahead of the curve these days. There's a lot happening, but I would say, initiatives like Prop 12 are progressively enhancing the integration of technology and physical infrastructure in construction. This is especially evident in these new constructions or renovations. And one thing I was just thinking about, I had a recent conversation with Dr. Hyatt from Gestalt, and emphasis was on the necessity for those involved in the farm design and construction to deepen their understanding of the production practices. And I would say this is crucial due to the significant decision making that's emerged in recent years regarding the barn layouts and designs and what technology and tools that we have. So engaging, experienced production professionals in that decision making for the renovations or even new projects is essential for enhancing that long-term efficiency and productivity of that farm. And promoting greater information sharing and idea generating, conversations, especially around the role of technology and barn design. I feel like it could substantially improve how these facilities serve, our systems in the long term. So I just think there's a lot of conversations that have been happening that, or even I would suggest need to happen more, so that there's this collaboration as we're trying to build assets and make things successful for not just now, but also for the future.
And final summary, Phil, 2024, it's been a lot of remodels, but there is something new that's almost finished.
Yeah. Here in Ohio, we've got a new Prop 12 farm that's being finished up now. We've loaded that barn with the gilts and have been breeding for several weeks here. Getting ready to open the farrowing side of that. So pretty exciting time. And again, kind of follows what I was just saying. There's a lot of, when you have a clean sheet design, it's going to be, what is going to be the best for now, but it's also going to be the best for the future. And that's been an exciting project.
Phil Horde, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.
And we thank you for watching Swine Insights Unleashed, Episode 3, Market Momentum Insights from the 2024 Hog Building Report and Facility Trends. We also hope that this content better prepares you to succeed when it comes to everything in the swine industry. We also encourage you to explore SwineWeb's facilities and equipment page for additional resources, and we'll also provide you a sneak peek into upcoming episodes and topics. Once again, thank you for watching. I'm Vic Faust.